Most people think you need to quit your job or work 100-hour weeks to make decent money online, but that's just not true. Today, I'm talking to my coaching student, Paulo, a busy dad who's living proof you don't have to sacrifice your full-time job or family time to build a serious income stream. While juggling a demanding 9 to 5 and family life, he's pulling in 6 figures every year selling on Amazon part-time. Not just revenue that looks good on paper, but actual take-home profit in his pocket. In this video, we'll break down exactly how he does it, how much time it actually takes, and the real strategies you can use to start your own Amazon site also from scratch. Even if you feel like you have no time, let's jump into it. What's up, Paulo? Welcome to the show. Good to have you here, man.
It's good to be here, Miles. Thank you very much.
For sure, dude. So I wanted to have you here because you're an excellent example of what really a lot of people are looking to do, which is transition from having a successful career to being a full-time Amazon seller, or even better in terms of income in some cases, keeping a 9 to 5 while being a successful Amazon seller part-time. And you're doing the latter right here. So very excited to hop on and just, share some knowledge with you and from you, from your perspective, having done this really successfully part-time the past couple of years, and really just break a lot of people's limiting beliefs around what's possible. Right. So do you mind, as we hop into it here, just give a little bit of background on yourself, your career, set up family wise and everything, and why you got into selling on Amazon?
Yeah, I think l- the background with me is I have an interesting story because I am a high school dropout 2 times. I've dropped out of college, but yeah, I still went back and got my bachelor's and my master's, right? So I've uh, I've tried many different things. I failed so many times, but I've always kind of kept in mind that I truly didn't fail. It's the business failed or this failed for whatever reason, but I never failed. I just was misinformed and made a bad choice, but I'm not a failure in myself. So I'm an engineer today, and I'm grateful for that. But I always wanted to have my own business, but I just didn't want to have like be tied to a store or physical location, right? That was always something that I didn't want to move forward with. I wanted to have like Wi-Fi money, something online because it's the internet is growing, still growing like so crazy fast. And I stumbled upon Amazon right when COVID started, where started with private label, and that crashed and burned. So then I found the roadmap course, and it was like a smaller investment. And I told my wife, like, hey, do you support this? She's like, hell yeah. So that's when I actually started doing OA, and I built that proof of concept within probably 6 weeks. Started making money. I think I made $1,000 at that point. I was like, oh my God, this is actually happening. And from then on, it just, kept networking and learning more about the business and spending more. And now I'm here 3 years later with over $3 million in sales. So you just got to start and be consistent with it.
Yeah, and so I remember, so you had done the roadmap and then eventually the coaching program in like late 2022, right? And then break down just year by year both sales and rough profit numbers, and then also just business model too, because you've actually transitioned from online arbitrage to wholesale and really done stuff the right way. So break down kind of that year by year growth.
Yeah. So the first year I was at uh, end of 2022, right? I ended the year with about 300,000 in sales, and the profit probably like about $40,000 in profit. Q4 was huge. And then the next year, I actually hit $1 million in sales. 2023 and 24 hit a million in sales in each one. In 23, I made almost $180,000 in profit. And then last year I made less because I made mistakes in that transition from OA to wholesale. So it was a lot of learning in that. I still made about $100,000 in profit, which is great. And this year is going to be my best year yet. I'm already almost at 1 million. So in sales. So yeah, things are trending up, and um, the profit is there. The opportunity is still in there on Amazon. That's for sure.
Sure. And from your perspective, obviously, like being a busy father, having a good 9 to 5 already, what really motivated you and made you want to start the Amazon business in general? Because obviously, you have tons of other stuff going on, as do lots of people, right? And also, in terms of your Amazon journey, what was the moment when you're like, holy crap, this really works? This is something I really got to pour time and resources into.
Yeah. So the thing about a 9 to 5, I think 98% of people fall in this bucket is that the opportunity to make more money is not truly there. If you're an hourly worker or a salary worker, you're getting a 3% bump a year. A year. If you're making 50K a year, how much really is that? A couple grand. And that just doesn't keep up with all the inflation and cost and being a parent and having a house, all of that. So I needed to make money on the side, more money, a side hustle. And that's kind of like what I always try to do with being a mechanic. And uh, Amazon was an easier entry than other businesses. You can just sign up. You don't even have to have an LLC to start, right? You could just start your account and start buying products with your own cash or credit card and get that process going. And I'm sorry, what was the second part of that question, Miles?
Yeah, man. So of course, bro. So it's like, when did you know that it really, really worked? Like, what was the
Okay.
moment? And there might not have been a moment, by the way, right? It might have just been a really gradual thing. But like, any specific product or any specific season or any opportunity where you're like, holy crap, like this is something that I really think I should put a lot of resource into.
Okay. When it really started taking off for me after losing $10,000 in private label and getting the roadmap and learning from somebody that's done it before me was my first product was a mix of OA and RA, and it was spray butter. You don't need to refrigerate it. So I sent that FBA and I was making like $3 to $5 a unit, but I was selling like 50 units a month. That was my first product. I was like, oh, great. And then I stumbled upon that was some money. And then for Dr. Scholl's was the next product. I found some crazy coupon code, was like 40% off. And I went crazy on that product. I bought a ton of it. I filled up my living room with like 3 different products actually. And I was like, I can't believe I'm going to send this all to Amazon. And it sold really fast. So within about 6 weeks after I started doing OA, that's when I started making like $1,000, $1,500 in profit, like that I actually had back in my pocket. And that's kind of like when the proof of concept really hit. I was like, okay, there is a lot of money here to be made. And I just started, right? So that's when it really hits. That first $1,000 for me was kind of like the game changer.
Boom, pretty quick. And the big thing is you had gone from losing a bunch of money with private label, which totally works, but it's way more risky because you know, in most cases have to commit to one product. You need a lot more skills. You got to run ads, do a bunch of marketing, buy stuff from China, wait for it to actually get here from China. Meanwhile, with online arbitrage, right, you're selling listings that already have proven sales history. You can see the data on SellerAmp, you can see the data on Kiva, and all you have to do is be able to make the numbers work from a profitability perspective too. Right. And then in terms of time allocation, right? That's obviously a super important thing for folks like yourself that got a bunch of stuff going on. Break down originally how much time you're spending on the business when you were newer, as well as to paint a picture of, if you do things correctly, how it can turn out, what amount of time you're spending today on the business.
Yeah, when I first started off, not only was I working my 40 hours in the 9 to 5, I was putting in about 40 hours in Amazon as well. Pretty much all sourcing and watching videos and networking some of that. So in the beginning, I would finish my job at 3 and I'll be working from home. So pretty much have a small break to spend time with my wife. 3:30, I'll be back at it till like 10 o'clock at night. And I remember many nights just I'm clicking and I'm searching. I'm like, just another 15 minutes, just another 15 minutes. Because sometimes you go and you don't find products, right? And that's okay because you're still learning. And on the weekends, I will put in about 8 to 10 hours too, Saturday and Sunday, because I really wanted to make this work. I really saw the opportunity because I was already making some buys, but I just knew that I I couldn't give up. I couldn't fail. Like there's a lot of pressure on being the provider for the family as well. And I put that pressure on myself. I'm like, I know I could do this, right? Because other people are doing it. They're not better than me, they're not smarter than me, but they're doing something right. So let me just rinse and repeat. And it really worked out for me. And then over time, you start hitting certain bottlenecks in your business, whether it's people or capital or even products. And you will know that some of the stuff like the administrative side of Amazon could be delegated. You train somebody, a VA in the Philippines, in my case, to do a lot of this work that needs to be done, but you don't want to do it. And that's when you start delegating like that kind of stuff. You can delegate sourcing and you delegate prepping with the prep center. So as you get bigger and bigger, you're in sales specifically. You just want to focus on the highest ROI activity that you can, which is typically sourcing, and you want to delegate everything else. And part of that was to buy my time back. I don't want to be spending 80 hours a week doing two jobs, right? Amazon and 9 to 5. I wanted to part of the reason to have the side hustle and make more money is to spend more time with my family, right? And now that I have a daughter, I don't want to miss that opportunity with her. So over time, I put in a lot of effort to start, and you can put in less to start, but I just knew that I had a shorter window to prove myself, and I hit the ground running with that. So today I work about 10 hours a week, and I can work more, but I choose to work less because the time with family is more important.
Sure. And you know, when you start out, you're a one-man army, right? You got to learn everything yourself, right? Which is goes for any business, obviously, especially Amazon. But the nice thing with Amazon is because Amazon handles the individual fulfillment. You just have to get the units to Amazon, which starts out being yourself, shipping them using Boxum, and then eventually, using a 3PL or what's called a prep center. They're synonymous, they're just kind of different terms, right? As well as virtual assistants to help you out potentially with product research or admin work and everything. And virtual assistants, like we like the site onlinejobs.ph. They do a really good job. You can get people for like $3, $4, $5, $6 an hour that'll do incredible work for you on the computer. And it's really just an insane arbitrage we have available to us in 2025 and everything too, which is pretty cool on that. In terms of like getting the ball rolling product research wise, obviously, a lot of people maybe have played around with some YouTube videos as I did when I was new, same with you, obviously, but product research can be pretty overwhelming, especially with like ungating too, as well. So how did you navigate that as a beginner in terms of finding your first couple winning products, strategies, tools, etc.?
Yeah, so definitely I use almost all the time is Keepa and SellerAmp. And the Keepa is basically the software that allows you to know if a product sells well or not on Amazon. And especially with BSR. And now there's some more tools available in that, but that you need Keepa, right? Otherwise you're buying blind. And then the SellerAmp is great for figuring out, because part of sourcing is you want to go through more products faster, because the minute you can basically find the red flags of a product, or whether it's like IP or profitability, things like that, you want to move on to the next one, right? So you kind of want to qualify products really fast, so that way you can go through more products in a certain amount of time, like 50 products an hour, etc. Right? So SellerAmp helps with that, Keepa helps with that, and then as you do your research and find a product, you start learning when products like websites have sales. You start learning about discount codes, you start learning about cashback, and you start putting these things together, because at first it's overwhelming because it's so much data and you're moving fast. But as you get used to it and you repeat it and repeat it and repeat it, you're able to combine these things. You actually start learning which websites and which brands. You start getting all the information to know that if this is going to be a good buy or a bad buy immediately. And so you need that software really. And then there's other softwares out there that people like love to talk about, but at the end of the day, those are the two that I use, like, and that's the ones that you really need for the business.
Yeah, and also the cheapest ones too, as well. Like, you kind of think of like, okay, shopping online, finding deals and flipping them. You think of it would be like, okay, I should go to Target's sales section or Walmart's sales section. And that ends up being incredibly overwhelming, right? I don't really think beginners should be manual sourcing. Once you have your favorite websites, then you can go on and do manual. But to start out, just selling on storefront stock is going to be the easiest right there too. So obviously, like starting a business and even just sourcing, like you were saying, can be obviously super overwhelming and just potentially even demotivating when stuff's not going your way. So how did you, stay motivated and stay consistent during the times that are a little bit harder, which is going to happen with any new venture?
Yeah, believe it or not, I'm a big practitioner of meditation. I meditate every day, and the beauty of it that I learned over time is that your feelings really impact your life. Your emotions. So if you're feeling down one day just because you had a bad night of sleep or something like that, it actually impacts your work as well. And you really got to be able to know what you're feeling in the moment. So even though let's say you made a bad buy, you need to liquidate something, and it sucks to do that. You don't want to lose money, but you need to accept that. You need to take responsibility that that's happening, and you're going to improve, and then things will get better. And if you take that approach versus kind of like getting stuck in, oh man, this sucks, I'm going to give up, I'm not going to do this today because whatever, it's not going my way. That's really the that's the difference between an entrepreneur and actually like a regular person. The entrepreneur doesn't give up. He needs to continuously evolve, learn from the mistakes, and move forward. Go into the unknown. Is this going to work? Is it not? You kind of just want to find out. You just can't say that it's not going to work and never try. You really got to try. And a great analogy for this is a person that is like about to jump from a cliff with like a parachute. Uh, and underneath them is kind of cloudy. They kind of don't know where they're going to go, right? But the minute you jump, you can't go back. So that's kind of like the entrepreneur. Sometimes you take an action that you can't go back from, but that's how entrepreneurship is. That's how you're going to find more opportunity. That's when you take more risk. And as you learn the entrepreneurship way, you learn how to minimize that risk as you move forward, right? But it feels very scary, very uncomfortable, but that's part of that.
Yeah, and the way I think about it too is that like everything is a lesson when you think about it on a long enough time scale, right? But things can be mistakes and be things that aren't great in the short term, right? But over the long term, I feel like in my life, like everything I went through that was hard built me and everything, right? And a positive mind frame for that is that you're not building, the business, you're building yourself, which is going to obviously produce very profitable, results based on that and everything too on all that. So in terms of like obviously coming from a successful career and continue to have a successful career, obviously as a part-time Amazon seller, what would you say, whether it be like structure or experience, like do you think having a like good 9 to 5 prepared you for life as an entrepreneur?
I think there's a certain set of skills that I've built over time. A mix of maybe project management and being an engineer. I know numbers really well, formulas and stuff like that. So there is some usage of formulas that I use and just organization overall because you really need to know where your money's going. If there's losses, reimbursements, things like that. So I think, yeah, the 9 to 5 has helped me. Everything that I've done before this, I was a treasurer for my church for like 8 years. And a lot of that stuff I just carried over, right? It doesn't mean it's required. There's people that's doing things in their business today that's at a much higher level than I am, and that's better for them. But those skills that I've learned with being a treasurer and an engineer does translate really well into this, especially like knowing my numbers, profits, and doing calculations in my head. I think it speeds up things for me, right? So that's definitely been helpful.
Yeah, and then too, it's like some things prepare you incredibly well and some things don't, but they're also incredible opportunities for development further, right? And that, for example, like my buddy John, who's been through the program too, like back in January, like he was struggling to get his computer to work and his printer to work the first time because he came from a past career that he didn't have to use the computer at all. And then literally on a coaching call this week, he was talking to ChatGPT, building Slack automations for daily SOPs for his virtual assistants, like building it out. It's like, if that isn't character development, I don't know what is, right? And I was like, that is so awesome. And that comes back to that we're not building the business, we're building ourselves and everything too, which is pretty cool. Quick interruption from the interview with Paulo, guys. If you love my content and want personalized one-on-one coaching directly from me, my personal phone number, you want to get together one-on-one on Zoom so we can live source together, you want to be a part of other Amazon sellers crushing the game, take a look down below at the link in the description to apply for my coach program. Back to school season's here. Q4 is coming fast with all the holidays later this year, the best time of the year for Amazon sellers. And now's the time to lock in and get started if you're interested in that. So take a look at that down below at the link in the description. Put in your information to apply. Back to the video with Paulo. What would you say are the hardest parts of not only just growing an Amazon or starting an Amazon business, but also growing it as well in terms of like whether it be time, the technical skills, the product research? Like, what would you say is the hardest part for folks considering starting it just in the beginning stages that we've obviously both been through?
I think the biggest challenge for me is some of the things you mentioned, but it was really what am I willing to give up? What am I willing? Because I mean, everybody's busy, everybody's allocating their time to something, but what are you willing to give up or at least pause or change for a different life? What are you really looking for from this business? So for me, um, was I willing to change my routine? Was I willing to change short term experiences in life with my family for a little bit later, like half a year later or something? Was I willing to lose some friends along the way? Right? Because as you grow mentally and mindset shifts, etc., sometimes the friends that you have, you actually, what, this is not a good friend for me. What if they are very negative all the time? What if they bring you down? I know people that stop businesses because their spouse told them to, just because, like, I don't want you doing this, and they gave up. What would you be willing to move on from a friendship to pursue your dream? So those are some of the things that I needed to face as I kept doing Amazon, because that actually happened. I don't have the same friends I have anymore. I have a lot more friends now, actually, believe it or not, that are kind of in the space because I grew with them. We all kind of grew together. But if you were to think, if you just change your job one time and go from one company to the other, you're losing some of those coworkers too. I guarantee you, and you're gonna make new friends here. So are you willing to give up that kind of connection? And I was willing to do it. So that's something that I think people struggle with, and that's the mind shift change. You need to be willing to change.
Yeah, you made a really good point there on the friends in the space, which I think is like such an incredible hack. So, for people who maybe have started and feel a little isolated, which is completely normal, you're starting a business that solely exists on your computer in respect to where you do the majority of the work, right? can feel a little isolating, maybe a little bit lonely, you've done a great job of being active in the Amazon community and finding some guys and gals to work with and network with and everything. And I think I did a good job of that. And it was incredibly helpful, especially when I was a beginner too, in terms of just being able to avoid mistakes and having people to jam ideas off of basically. So can you talk a little bit about that and just how that was helpful and how you were actually able to build that network of other Amazon sellers?
Yeah, so to build it really, you were the person that I listened to. You told me I need to be live on socials. I need to just be out there, reply to people, and just see where it goes, right? And then actually building it is you need to put the time with the person or the group, right? Whether it's Zoom calls or Discord voice channels is one that I use primarily to talk with people. And then if there was an opportunity to meet up, and I did in Vegas a few times already, I met up with people there, and it was great because a lot of these people are kind of uh, they know what you're doing. We're all kind of doing something similar with Amazon, right, or Walmart. And people at home, it's hard to relate because a lot of your friends aren't doing the same thing as you. So you really can't talk to them about the BSR or the profit of this product and how fast you flipped it and things like that because they may understand it, but they don't get it because they're not in it. They're not doing it. So and then the other thing with having a friends within the space that I didn't think about at the time was a lot of these people are way ahead of you. There's people behind you, and you can learn from everybody. They all bring something new to the table that you can actually implement into your business. So that really means is if you're willing to learn from these people, you're also not going to be making the same mistakes they made, and vice versa. You share your mistakes with them, and they're not going to commit the same mistakes. So what you're really doing too is you're accelerating your business and you're building friendships at the same time, which is like a two in one, which is great.
Oh, well, it seems, I mean, it's amazing because I've my whole life, like literally like the past 15 years, I've had very niche hobbies since I was like 10, 11, and I just always went to the internet to find those people. And it's been fun because then I didn't have to annoy my IRL friends with stuff they didn't care about and everything, right? And kind of continuing along more of those lines. So when you start looking for people to, meet in the Amazon community or just consume a lot of content around Amazon on social media, it can feel like it's all like people in the early 20s and mid 20s and everything. So what would you say for people who maybe feel like, they're too old to start a side hustle or that they're not sure if the Amazon business is going to work for them purely based on like age or just already having a really established career?
Yeah, it does feel like this mostly people in their 20s, maybe even 30s, just on the socials.
On
But
socials for sure. Yeah,
yeah,
which makes sense. Yeah.
which makes sense, right? That's the generation that is really in tune with their phones and social media. But I think for the older crowd, I'm about to be 40 years old, believe it or not, is really just there's communities, discords, school communities as well that you really want to be a part of, and those are just chatting away. You can put it on your phone, and there's other people like you there as well. There's people that are 60 years old and selling, 70 years old and selling that I've met, and they just tend to be quieter. But you can reach out to people, you can DM people, right? Get uncomfortable with that because the reality is you never know what's going to happen in a friendship. You may click with somebody, you may not, and but you don't know until you actually try to like communicate. And I've made many great relationships just back because they reached out to me or I reached out to them. So and a lot of these people I talk to, very often still. So and they're
Sure.
older than me and younger.
Yeah, right. And the nice thing is that in 99, maybe 100% of cases, right, outside of, a few, right, you didn't have to pay any money for that, right, which is so awesome, right? It's just, reputation and documenting what you're doing. It's like the biggest bargain in the world, right? And everything, which is pretty cool too. As well. So in terms of actually scaling the business, so you went from all in arbitrage pretty much, it seems like the first year and a half to predominantly wholesale the last year and a half. If you could do it over again, would you do it the same way and start with OA?
Yes. The beauty of OA compared to every other type of business model in Amazon is that you can put in a lot of reps really fast. You can learn Keepa, you can learn which products are or brands, etc. You'll get the experience real fast compared to wholesale or RA. And you can scale OA kind of quick and you can go really wide with OA. So you really get a lot of exposure. You can get really good with Amazon in like 3 months if you put in some time. In 3 months with OA, you'll learn so much because you're going to send products in, you're going to sell, you're going to see how the price change, the competition, all of that really, really fast. That's not the case with private label. That's not the case with wholesale and direct with brands as well. And then for RA, unless you're spending a lot of time buying these clearances, etc., you're going to have a hard time learning Amazon as well. And then once you have a really good foundation of Amazon, what sells, what doesn't sell, what to avoid, then I think you could maybe do something like wholesale, or you can really scale OA as long as you have the capital to keep growing that part of it. I think OA is the best way to start.
Sure, sure, absolutely. And so, in terms of like getting going and just starting to grow the business, so you had every reason and just like tons of stuff going on. So, like you said, your daughter was born, COVID was going on, right? Obviously what happened in 2020, and then a couple years later, starting the business, right? Still had a 9 to 5 and everything. Give us the productivity hacks for new Amazon sellers. Like, how can new Amazon sellers be getting more done in less time?
So, so productivity is you need to have a to-do list, goals, and time aside, right? So that means saying no to a lot of things as well. So I started in the summer, so I didn't go on vacation that summer. I chose to focus on the business. How many hours did I want to focus on the business? I chose to do 6 to 8 hours, right, per day. So that's what I did. Told my wife, in the calendar that we share, I'm like, hey, this is my sourcing time, and then we will have dates here and there, but that allowed me to like put my phone down, say no to friends, and I could just focus on this, which is what I really wanted to do. And then the other thing is your to-do list. It's so easy to get distracted for a few minutes on one thing, and then for you to refocus again on at the same level takes like another 20 minutes. So one small distraction will actually slow you down 30 minutes. So you really got to have a to-do list, because on the computer you can have so many tabs open. You can click here,
Especially with
click
LA.
there.
Yeah.
So you really got to focus. Like, am I going to source now? All right, close the other windows and just do sourcing now. Put your phone away, social media off, all of that, and really concentrate for 1 hour or whatever you can, right? But you really need to have that on your to-do list. If you're doing admin work, then focus on admin work that day and turn off the distractions. If you have your phone next to you, if you have email open, if you have these distractions constantly taking away, then it's going to slow you down, right? If you have kids, and the kids are a huge distraction, but you want to give them focus as well, you got to find a way to keep them busy, or have a babysitter or something along those lines, that you need to have time to focus. Otherwise, it's much harder to grow any business, right? Not just Amazon, but anything else. So
Sure, absolutely, man. And then in terms of for people who want to see more of your journey, you're also putting out a lot of good content around like business credit and how that can be a helpful tool once you're, really getting going on Amazon too. Where can people find you on social media for more info on that?
yeah, so I'm primarily on Instagram with my stories. My handle is Paulo.sells. And then I also have a YouTube channel as well with the same name, Paulo_sells. So you can find me there. You can find my content there as well.
Boom, 100%, man. Yeah, so definitely check out Paulo's information and check out his pages down in the description. Just follow a lot of the Amazon community too. In general, then I'm sure Paulo, if anyone has questions, they can let us know in the comments too, or obviously reach out as well.
Yep, sounds
Cool.
good. I'll reach out to me if I don't get back to you in the same day. Oh, the next few days, I'll get back to you.
Hope this video is helpful, guys. If you have any questions, let us know down below in the comments. If you want personalized one-on-one help directly from me to start or grow your Amazon business the right way in 2025, apply for coaching at the first link in the description. If you want to see me find a lot of auto one gate profitable products fast, click this video right here to see an auto one gate product source tutorial. Subscribe for more, and I'll see you guys in the next one.